Cameron Cade, or just Cam Cade as we'll call him, football prodigy, the next Isaiah White, was bound for greatness. Unfortunately, just not NFL greatness. Well, at least not yet. Rather, USFF greatness. After tragedy struck, Cam decided to settle down with this whole new life in Wyoming. This is the dark truth of reminders of him. This is reminders of him. This is your one and only warning that this video will contain spoilers for both him and reminders of him. I do highly recommend, if either of these films interest you, please save this video, like it, go watch those movies first, and come back to me. I'm not going anywhere. Okay, so as I said, Cam was headed for USF greatness. Unfortunately, he was struck by some masked attacker, giving him a brain injury that could have ended his career. He ultimately opts out of participating in the combine because of this head injury, thus leading to Isaiah White, who was injured himself and is basically on the last leg of his career, inviting Cam to his residence in a remote desert to personally train him. Long story short, it's some kind of demonic rite of passage to be the greatest of all time, the GOAT. And a bunch of funky shit is going on in the USFF for a lineage of San Antonio Savior quarterbacks. Now, what the hell does any of this have to do with Ledger from reminders of him? How is Cam Cade Ledger Ward? Now, I could say that him doesn't actually have an established setting. I mean, it was filmed in New Mexico, and the desert theme does check out. So Cam simply lives a pro football life in Southwest, visits Wyoming in his off season, and under a pseudonym, he lives a secret life. Case closed. Nice to see you, is what I would say if I wasn't wrong. Cameron Cade is a major football prospect, and anyone involved in sports in Wyoming would know who he is. He is a top college prospect heading into the USFF. So then how is any of this possible? In a flashback in reminders of him with Ledger and his pal Scotty, he talks about his aspirations for joining the NFL. And eventually he does. Specifically his aspirations of joining the Broncos. Now, Cameron Cade never officially joined the San Antonio Saviors, and he never played a game for them. So as far as the media knows, he simply went to train with Isaiah and died in this insane massacre at his home due to some demonic cultish rituals. Now, we have a fresh prospect who would go join the NFL under a new name, Ledger Ward, with longer hair. Resemblance would be hidden behind this long hair, the beard, and the tattoos. Reminders of him takes place about 7 years after Scotty's death. And we see Ledger and Scotty grown up when Ledger reveals to him in the treehouse or the jungle gym, whatever, that he wants to play in the NFL, as well as Scotty being alive when Ledger was signed to the Broncos. We see all of this in the film. Ledger is 28 years old in reminders of him. This lines up perfectly. Scotty's death would have been when Ledger was roughly 21 years old. Cameron Cade is 21 years old during the events of him. Now, I hear you typing away at that keyboard. That still doesn't make any sense. And to that I say, relax your little fingers, my friend. Let me break it down for you. The NFL Combine in 2026 took place between February 3rd and March 2nd. Assuming our fictional USFF league has a similar timeline, that gives our survivor plenty of time to flee to Wyoming. Plenty of time to climb a jungle gym, get high and have the conversation with Scotty in the treehouse, and then join the Denver Broncos. According to the NFL's rules for free agency, from my research, Cameron Cade, being a generational college talent, assuming he graduated high school at 18 years old and went to college, he would be eligible for the NFL draft that year. However, Cade decided to join the USFF instead. Now, since he then never actually joined the USFF, and by the time he would have made it to Wyoming and been renamed, the NFL draft would have passed, causing him to technically be an undrafted free agent. So, Ledger Ward then simply shows off his skills, gets invited to a camp by the Broncos, signs, and then Scotty's death would have come shortly after he signed on the white line. Ledger's mom lives in Florida. That's in line with the story. She fled after the cult with the help of another person in reminders of him. But I'll get to that shortly. Ledger never mentions his father. Why? Because he died. Cade's father died. That's why Cam quit football temporarily. You see where the dots are connecting. But Scotty and Ledger were lifelong friends. Well, we learned from Scotty that Ledger was never really around. That's because he wasn't. But why Ledger Ward? Well, in reminders of him, Scotty's dad, Patrick, not only would have voted for Obama for a third term, but he says that he's known Ledger since he was 5 years old. Now, how could that be possible, I hear you say? It's because he has. He knew him since he was Cam. Patrick was an owner of the San Antonio Saviors. He saw this cultish activities, and he decided, after seeing how demonic and creepy this ultimately was, to escape to Wyoming and simply start a family. Now, how did Cam become a casualty at Isaiah's mansion? There's a massacre there, but Cam's body wasn't there. He's alive. He would obviously be the top suspect. Fans saw him there. Patrick has always been there for Cam. Patrick has been like a support figure for Cam. He helped Cam fully become Ledger Ward. It was always his name to fall back on. It was always his name in Wyoming. It was his name if the cult ever went after him.
Hey, it's voiceover. So I actually had to cut this part out, but part of this theory as well is because Ledger Ward was truly a real person who died. So when Scotty was young, Ledger Ward, his best friend, died, hence Patrick using Ledger Ward as essentially a pseudonym for Cameron Cade's new identity, hence why with Scotty being so young when he died, he would have never known, and then Ledger wasn't ever really around because he was dead. So now this fake Ledger Ward took over.
This fake Ledger Ward has always been Scotty's best friend. This fake name for Scotty's friend became Cameron Cade's full identity. I mean, where do you think they got the idea to tell Dean, Scotty's daughter, that her mother just didn't have a big enough car so she couldn't see her? Kenna was in prison. Of course she didn't just not have a big enough car. It was Patrick, this absolute mastermind, this manipulator, this liar, did this on his own son. Not just with Ledger multiple times, but the entire time. Ledger has never been real. Cameron Cade has always been Ledger Ward. After Scotty's death in the NFL, Ledger would get injured again. And knowing what his agent told him years ago during the combine about his brain injury, that another injury could lead to permanent brain damage, he realized that this second injury with the Broncos, he got lucky that it wasn't a head injury, and he retired. Reminders of him and him are Universal Pictures films. They are Universal's secret sports film duology. I mean, Ledger coaches Liam's T-ball team. He knows all about sports, which means Universal already has hinted at the next film in this universe, Her. But hey, that's just a fun little theory. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. This was a ton of fun to write up. I put a lot of work and all of my conspiracy energy into this little storyline that I crafted here. So I do hope that y'all enjoyed. And if you did, and you made it this far and you still have not subscribed, why not? You're already here. Y'all, thank you all again so much. If you did enjoy this video, please leave it a like because it really does help out the channel so much. And I will see you all in the next one. Peace.